Oh my!
Holy sweet.
Suck your dick.
Jesus. That's coming out.
Wow.
Working Fans Podcast. Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Coming down 3, 2.
Welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. This is AJ. I'm the former wrestler. We've got Dave, the ultimate fan, here with us. As we do every week, our producer Joe likes to make us sound good and makes us look way more professional than we actually are. As always, you can find us on Twitter, that's @FansWorking, Facebook, Working Fans Pod. We've got email where you can reach out to us and please contact us to let us know what you think of the podcast and for any ideas that you might have. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram where you can keep up with us at workingfanswrestling_pod. And then you can now listen to us on all major platforms, including Anchor.fm. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and you can actually check us out on YouTube. Now, it's important when you go onto the Apple Podcasts and YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, let us know what you think so you can help us out and we can continue to do what we love and bring you guys in as fans.
Don't think you have to be an AEW guy or a WWE guy or girl. You know what? You
100%.
Watch and just watch some fucking wrestling and enjoy it for what it is. You don't have to, just because you like one doesn't mean you have to hate the other.
100%.
You know what? Don't watch that. If you don't like it, don't watch it. Watch what you like, because there's a lot more to choose from now.
Working Fans Podcast, we are debuting a new segment this week, and it's a little bit of a rib on Dave because he doesn't know what's coming at him. But I'm going to give him 7 names, and we're going to see if he can guess if they're from the video game industry or the wrestling industry. Dave, are you ready?
All right, hit me with it, Joe.
Number 1 on the list is Minoru Maeda.
That's a wrestler.
I'm sorry, Dave. Unfortunately, he's in the video game industry. He handled design for Nintendo Research and Development 9. One of the biggest things they kind of worked on was Mario 3. Number 2 on the list is Akira
He sounded familiar, so that's why I just said, it's got to be wrestler.
Oh, you'll notice that coming up, because number 2 on the list is Akira Maeda.
Say that again?
Number 2 on the list is Akira Maeda.
Wrestler.
That is a wrestler. He's a retired wrestler, retired MMA. There was I think a clip of him kicking Chono on Google or on YouTube. Look it up. So number 3 is Seiji Sakaguchi.
Sakaguchi. I'm gonna go wrestler.
He is a wrestler. He was a mainstay of New Japan Pro Wrestling. He even competed in the WWF and the NWA. Number 4.
2 on the record, man. That's way better than I thought I was gonna do. You got 7 of these?
2 and 1. Yeah, I got 7 of these. I should have done more because I really didn't expect you to do this good.
We'll see. I can go 2 for 5, and we'll see what we got here.
Number 4 on the list is Yuko Miyamoto.
I'm gonna go video game.
He is actually a wrestler. He was apparently... because there was a review of him on CageMatch.net. Only one of them was in English. And apparently with Jun Kasai, he's kind of like one of the blueprints of a modern deathmatch wrestler.
Okay.
So 2 and 2.
2 and 2, 500 record. There we go.
Number 5 on the list is Shigeru Miyamoto.
I'm gonna go video game. We gotta be doing for video game.
Oh, you fucking son of a bitch. Yeah, he's a video gamer. I'm disappointed. What did he do? He created Mario. You've been fucking researching this shit. Are you Googling this on your other phone while we're doing this?
Absolutely not, man.
All right, number 6.
This is a good guess there. 3 and 2.
Yep.
I could end up with a winning record if I get one of the next 2 right.
God damn, it's like you watch Double Dare your whole life and you're like, I'm about to catch up here.
What can I say? I'm a fan of the culture. Hit me with it.
Number 6 on the list is Tatsumi Kimishima.
That's a wrestler.
Fucking A. He's a former president of Nintendo, actually. So you're 3 and 3.
No shit. God damn it.
All right, we're going. This is the moment of truth right here.
I didn't think we'd get down to this. I figured I would have already done really well or really bad. I think we get down to, like, I could win or lose on the last one.
Yeah, this segment was designed for you to do really bad, and I don't think I set it up well enough. Number 7 on the list is Masanori Saito.
Man, with a name like Saito, that motherfucker better be a wrestler.
You fucking son of a bitch. I should have thrown more trick questions. Yeah, he's a wrestler. That's Masa Saito. I went with his real name because I figured if I was playing around with the names enough, you'd get tripped up, but...
Of course, you also didn't think you'd probably make it this far.
No, I've got a list of, like, a bunch of other guys, but you're 4-3. You beat the list. I don't know if this segment's ever coming back, but you did good. Let's...
Be a champion. Get fucked. I get it.
Since yesterday, a couple things have happened. First on the list is both Killer Kross and Timothy Thatcher have signed to WWE. I think these are two major signings. I'm particular to Timothy Thatcher over Killer Kross, but Killer Kross has done a lot, and the Bloodsport pay-per-views have lost two of their better contenders. What are your thoughts on this?
I love it. I actually saw a thing that Timothy Thatcher might go to NXT UK, which might not be the best for some people on the people, but I think if he joins Imperium, that's going to be really great for that brand. It might get some people to tune in. Kross is the money of the two, and I love Thatcher, but Kross to me has a presence and a personality. I really hope we see him on NXT. I'm really curious to see like what he could do down there with guys like Ciampa, and assuming he's a heel, whatever he ends up taking on. I mean, if he's a babyface, maybe stalking Adam Cole or something, and understood it. I'm very excited. I'm hoping that maybe we get this is just guessing. I have no idea, but as we saw in the last segment, I'm a pretty good guesser. I'm hoping that maybe that Kross could end up at Takeover in a few weeks.
That's where I was thinking of seeing him debut, but I think there's no question that he's got to be a heel. He's got that insane look to him. You could have him running crazy over NXT. And as it pertains to Timothy Thatcher, I think if you put him in NXT UK, that's where I'd want to see him go. Because you get him and Walter back together. You get some of that magic they had in Evolve. And I think it makes Imperium a little more serious. They're not bad right now. But with Thatcher in there, I think they could be so much more.
Another level.
And number 2 on my list today, Season 3 of NWA Power kicked off last night. What did you think of it?
First thing that jumped off the page,
Eddie Kingston's promo, yes.
Eddie Kingston, thank you. Yeah, Eddie Kingston got a hell of a promo last night. I remember I was watching the show. I was interested, but I was kind of doing stuff, and that fucking promo, he made me look up. I was like, oh, shit, this guy's got some shots.
I know, I was doing a little bit of stuff for the podcast, kind of getting things together. I had it on because I had heard they switched their theme song. Love hearing Pantera in the open. Gives it a little bit of a different feel. But then I was listening, but I kind of tuned out. And then when I heard Eddie Kingston go off, I was like, holy shit. I'm glad NWA has him, but I'm almost amazed that he's not popping off somewhere else like he was in Impact, say, a year and a half ago.
One other thing I want to get your opinion on, too, they talked about last week, but it was brought up this week, too. The Lucky 7 thing with the NWA TV title, that if you guy gets successful, 7 successful title defenses, now they say if you win or it's a draw. So I don't know if the guy got disqualified or counted out and he kept his belt, if that automatically takes him out. Judging by the rules, they told us it would. But regardless, 7 successful title defenses, and that person's going to get a shot at the World Championship. That would be Ricky Starks and Nick Aldis right now. I find that very interesting, and I like that kind of link on that.
Yeah, it's that different kind of level of storytelling. It's almost like the Money in the Bank being the number 1 contendership, but I feel like this just feels a little more wrestling, and you're at least going to get 7 solid matches out of this champion, which I think Ricky Starks, they could pull it off with him.
One other thing, too, I liked the last season of NWA in the championship was Aaron Stevens doing the stalling technique where he kept yelling for time. It kind of showed me that it was going to be a draw, but I thought it was a nice heel way of keeping the program going where he wasn't just necessarily trying to win the match, he was just trying to save the title.
Yeah, he's been doing real good with NWA. He's one of the standout characters to me from it all.
Yeah, good stuff at NWA right now. They definitely have really lift up to like one of my favorite things to watch every week.
Oh, we didn't even bring up Eddie Kingston bringing out the Bouncers last night. So there's some definite ROH crossover that I'm liking to see.
Yeah, I do like to introduce him too. He said he had a couple of young liars coming out. So I was like, all right, Eddie, you got me.
I know, then when he said the Bouncers, I'm like, wait, is there another team named the Bouncers? And then I saw them and I was like, holy shit. Like, that's the kind of crossover we were talking about hoping to see. And it's kind of at a lower level, but at least somebody's doing it.
Another thing too, one more thing I like about the show last night that pops off in my head is, talking about the things they're doing differently, like the 7 title defenses for the TV belt. All this built stipulation out there that if Marty Scurll, wants the title match, then he has to guarantee people, everybody's money back in the arena. But I thought to me, okay, that means Marty's probably going to win because I don't see anybody getting their money back. But you never know if they do.
That's a very old school technique, and I'm happy to see them drawing people in with it, because maybe there are some people that are like, there's no way all this is going to drop the title. Maybe they've got something set up where they've covered their costs, and this is something they can afford to do. Because it would be the first time it was ever done if it was pulled off, but it's not likely.
But Aldis made a statement last night, too, that to Marty, that he haven't heard back from you, but if this doesn't work for you, make a counter offer, but it better be something big. And that's something I like, because that storytelling is going on, too, that, hey, we're keeping our options open here. But at the end of the day, I still run this show, so you need to make it something I like.
Yeah, NWA is really, they're on a next level with how they're presenting things, I think. Now, moving on, later this month, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're looking at 3 different pay-per-views. The first one is NXT TakeOver on February 16th. The next one is the Super Showdown show on February 27th. And then the AEW Revolutions pay-per-view is on February 29th. That is a lot of big cards in kind of a little bit of time. What has stood out amongst the pack for you as far as matches that are going to happen at those?
Well, I'm going to add something there, too. I know we're a wrestling podcast, but also there's a big UFC event this weekend for me. And I don't always follow boxing, but 2 of the best fighters that I enjoy, one who's dipped in pro wrestling a little bit, Tyson Fury, is fighting the heavyweight champion Deontay Wilder. That's all this muck. The February's fucking jacked with shit right now for people who like combat sports / pro wrestling. Like, there's a lot of stuff to go on.
Exactly. I didn't even think of the MMA or boxing. That's a good point.
Yeah, there are a lot of similar fan bases. And I'll say this could be another subject completely. But, I mean, MMA and boxing draw from pro wrestling. There's all of the art of promotion and sale. Hence your Conor McGregor's, your Muhammad Ali's, and some of the stars of now in the past. However, as far as the wrestling aspect goes, to me, takeovers are always the things that really stick out to me. But one thing about, unfortunately, a little bit of a drawback, like as much as I love NXT on a week-to-week basis right now, I feel like the fact that they're a 2-hour live show and with everything going on, there isn't that same proper feeling excitement for this takeover as others. However, that being said, I've talked to people about other takeovers before, and they always exceed expectations. Unlike the Saudi shows, I'm not the typical guy who's going to be a hater, but they usually don't exceed.
No, those are almost like the dream matches that pop up. Like, I think it was rumored that Edge was coming back for it. I don't think he is. I believe they're saying Goldberg's going to be on the show.
Yeah, Goldberg's supposed to be on SmackDown, and the rumor is it's going to be the setup match at Showdown. And I even heard a rumor on Wrestle Talk today that there's a rumor that some people in WWE want Sting for the show.
Okay, I mean, the Saudi shows never really pop me. They're always at weird times. It's like a lower level WrestleMania, kind of with storylines that aren't particularly going anywhere, but it does make news. The NXT takeovers.
It's the afternoon show.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the NXT takeovers usually stand out more to me, but like you said, there's so much going on, and I've been kind of watching AEW and catching up on NXT that I couldn't tell you any matches that are really happening outside of a Tegan Nox, Dakota Kai street fight.
Yeah, I mean, well, as far as like, recent match on NXT or like for the TakeOver show, you mean?
For the TakeOver show, because I don't know really what they're building up to. I haven't been watching regularly. Like, I know Keith Lee won the U.S. title. I imagine there's going to be... North American. So I have a feeling there's going to be some defense of that. What is it, Ciampa and Cole for the NXT?
Ciampa and Cole. Ciampa, one thing I talk about here later on in the show is that the one thing I really liked about NXT this week that stuck out between the shows was Ciampa actually came out with a table in the ring, put an X on it, and said, I'm going to put you through this table, Cole, and then I'm going to sign a contract, and we're going to face each other. And he did exactly what he said. It was a pretty good little spot. So I'm excited for those two, and I'm also excited for the Broserweight. I don't know if you've seen much of the Broserweight.
I have. I really thought they came together as a good team, and it's something that I hope they keep together, and it's not just another one of these Dusty Classic teams that they're together for a little bit, then they split, and that's the reason for a feud coming up. I think they could really do things.
I think they're going to win the tag belt. They're supposed to fight for the tag title at the TakeOver event, and I think there will eventually be a split, but I kind of hope it goes for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I kind of want to fit...
I was going to say, as for the other thing we didn't talk about was AEW Revolution, I would say one thing I've noticed about AEW is that they're doing a good job with the slow build. Like, I'm not maybe that crazy about Moxley versus Jericho, but they're doing a good job of building it up. And Cody and MJF, like, I feel like the build's been picking up, but it's going to really start to pick up this week with the 10 lashes to the back.
Yeah, 10 lashes this week, and that's got to make, what, maybe the cage match next week?
It is, yeah.
Wow. So, yeah, that's been a real good build. I'm excited for the Moxley-Jericho match. They've been building it up well. They really have kind of invested just in these two stories, really. So it would make sense that they stand out amongst the rest. Are you aware of any other matches on the Revolution card?
Not unfortunately. Those are definitely the two big ones we're building to. I am interested to see what's going to eventually happen with Hangman Page. They're really taking this interesting. It almost reminds me of a Scott Hall when he was drunk storyline, but at the same time, Hangman's actually a completely sober person. It's not based off anything in real life. So it's kind of interesting to see what they're doing with it.
Yeah, it's different. I've kind of wondered where it's going. They've been teasing it a lot. So, yeah, that's another storyline they've put a lot into that I forgot about.
Yeah.
Now,
there's so much left on right now.
Yeah, and
it's so hard to keep up. Like, I watch the stuff and it like goes right out of my mind. You know, if we're going to talk about it, I'm like, oh yeah, wait, what happened?
Yeah, because I mean, we've got day jobs. Things are getting busy in real life, so you watch wrestling almost to kind of be entertained, tune out for a little bit. But unfortunately, we've put ourselves in a position where we turn around and talk about it, and we can't remember shit sometimes. Now, to finish up on that note, I have been very sporadic in watching new MLW as of late. I've watched the first couple events 10 fucking times, too many times. But Dave, can you catch me up a little bit on modern MLW, like the last couple episodes at MLW? And that's what we'll go out on for our part of the discussion this week.
I think the last few weeks, the big thing that really happened was they continued the Manslaughter Jimmy Havoc feud, which finished last week with the no ropes barbed wire match. Mixer won, loved that, but he cut a great promo this week, and he's talking about going after Hammerstone's belt, and he's something they've done a great job establishing his character. He's someone I'm excited about to see where they're going with. They're also doing new skits with, what's that guy's name? Medina. He just came
out. Gino Medina.
Gino Medina, yeah. And so the Dynasty's teaching him things, and obviously MJF is getting ready to leave. I don't know if it was his last match this week or his last match is coming up, but MJF wrestled, and I talk about this later, but I probably won't beat it into the ground, but man, he is such a good heel when he's wrestling Marshall Von Erich on this past week's taping. He is just spitting at people. He's doing crazy shit. The other thing I would say that, you really probably missed was the Oscar Cup. Some great matches in that. With the story being that Brian Pillman kind of making his way to the tournament with an injured arm because Injustice had attacked him, but that he kept winning. And then he got to the finals against Davey Boy Smith, who still was able to come out on top. And, that was the big thing. It was Davey Boy's grandfather, Stu Hart, Opera Cup, but he wanted to keep the trophy in the family, and they plan on making this a yearly thing.
Nice. I wasn't surprised to see Davey Boy take it because it would make sense if it's in his family, let him win it. But I mean, he's a powerful athlete as it is, so he deserves to be in that spot. It's nice that they brought back something like the Opera Cup and they kind of dip back into that tradition of the sport.
Yeah, not to be too redundant because like there's conversations we take at different times this week, and a lot of full disclosure, people can hear this and put two and two together. I talked about this a little bit with AJ, and I said how smart it was. I think that it came out that MLW is doing business with Dragon Gate, and they're already doing business with AAA. I'd like your opinion on that a little bit. Your insight, what you think about that? 'Cause I think it's exciting.
Oh, I love when promotions work together. They're working with AAA, they're working with The Crash. No, I mean, I think it's major that they're working with The Crash, they're working with AAA, they're working with Dragon Gate. You have a chance to kind of tape your stuff in different countries. You can make your title a world title traveling to these areas. So I think that's very interesting. I want to see the talent that goes back and forth. I think the sky's only the limit for them right now.
I agree. It's such a smart time, like I think I've already said, but it's a smart time to be doing this. With AEW and WWE, just going after talent and everything going on right now, this is the time to pair up with other groups and do this happen. Smart. NWA is doing it with Ring of Honor, and MLW is doing it with international promotions like Dragon Gate and AAA.
Yeah, 1,000%. So that's our part of the conversation. Next up, you're going to hear Dave and AJ chat a little bit. And then Dave and me are back for the 5-3-1 later. So talk to you guys later. Bye.
All right, everybody. It's the Working Fans Podcast. We got Dave and we got AJ here. We got some subjects for you to discuss. Joe gave me a list of things he wanted to discuss this week. I'm going to start off with the co-presidents leaving WWE and the stock dropping. I want to add to this, too. There's also about to be less house shows. People are not predicting that the revenue coming in is going to be, obviously they got the Fox deal coming in for money, but there's a rumor, too, that the network subscriptions might have dropped. And one of the things being talked about and discussed, and I want to add to this, too, is that NXT is now on USA. And there's a theory, and I can kind of see it, now with NXT on USA, people who used to just watch NXT on the network are now no longer getting the network for that reason. And I do know someone who actually stopped having the network because he can just watch NXT on USA Network now.
Yeah, I don't watch anything else on the network. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy watching some of the old wrestling, but I can watch that on YouTube just as easily as I can watch it on the network.
Right.
And why pay $9.99 a month if I can watch it for free on YouTube?
Yeah, what do you watch? Basically, any big show that might interest you and
Royal Rumble. Yeah, Royal Rumble, NXT UK. But the big one that we watched every week was NXT. And they kept talking about adding these other tiers in where they were going to add other content. But thus far, the WWE hasn't really added any other content. If they were to go out and add some of that other stuff, like I know they added some Mid-South and stuff of that nature. But if they went deep into those libraries to stuff that you can't find on YouTube, then absolutely they would draw me back in. But as of right now,
adding like promotions like Evolve as part of the tier would help too.
Exactly. But right now, they've done nothing to really drive up the business.
And would you say the stock dropping is probably coincide with the co-presidents being fired as well?
I think it does. I think anytime you have an upheaval like that, especially nobody's really sure exactly what happened.
Right.
They're not sure why the plan happened. It's not like they had replacements ready to go where they were like, whoa, we're bringing in so-and-so from this big place and they're going to fill the void of Barrios and Wilson. No, it looks like they just all of a sudden said, you know what? We don't need these schmucks.
Yeah, and to me it looks like there's a lot of cost-saving measures that are about to happen here.
And how much of it has to do with the XFL?
That's very interesting. We'll segue to that then, because one of the things Joe wanted to talk about is the Super Bowl today, and the XFL starts soon. You're more of a sports authority. I will say this about the Super Bowl today, real quick side note, as it personally relates to me. Rules and, in the bread business, this side of the country we're on, are going to be down this year for me, because this is the first year in a long time that the New England Patriots are in the Super Bowl. Now, I'm not the biggest Patriots fan, but they do mean good business when they're in the Super Bowl.
Here's a little
West Coast rivalry. No.
I'm on the opposite end of that. Believe it or not, in the restaurant business, the Super Bowl when the Patriots are in it actually hurts us.
I believe that.
The reason why is because people actually are doing more at home.
Sure.
More of the grilling, more of the stuff that would bring you business.
Right.
Is done when the Patriots are actually in the Super Bowl and they don't go out as much to eat.
100%. I had the discussion this week. I said to someone, I said, you're probably going to hear people say something like, you want to have a Super Bowl party? Your team's not in it. Let's just go out.
Exactly. And as much as New Englanders and people in this area claim to be sports fans, they're not really sports fans. They're fans of their teams. It's the same thing when it comes to the Red Sox and the Yankees in baseball. People will go, oh, I'm a baseball fan, and then they say that they're a Red Sox Yankees fan. And at that moment, I know they probably don't watch any other baseball other than their team. And it's kind of a sad thing in this area.
Before you go on a rant, let me talk about the XFL then. Because you're a sports fan, what do you think about the XFL coming up?
I think the XFL looks interesting. I mean, they're doing something where, similar to the football leagues that use in the World Football League over there in Europe, they're actually keeping a pool of players that are going to be practicing year-round down in Dallas, Texas, and all of the teams will actually be able to draw from this pool when they have injured players or whether they need to fill a spot. So that's kind of an interesting facet. There's only so much information out there so far about the XFL, so I can't really go into rules or any kind of teamwork. I know there's going to be a St. Louis team, so I'm going to go for that team in the XFL. As it coincides with wrestling, I think it's going to completely take away from the WWE. I think that they're investing money into that I know is supposed to be Vince's money going towards it, but I think they are drawing money from the WWE to go towards it, and I think that that's one of the reasons why they made the budgetary cuts that they made.
We talk about oversaturation in wrestling a lot. I've had the same conversation with friends of MMA, oversaturation, how there's too much of everything. Last week, me and Ken Anderson had a talk about this, where we talked about oversaturating of stuff in general and entertainment. You're more of a football, I am a football fan, but you can relate just a little more than I do. You're a sports fan. Is just this more oversaturation?
It's complete oversaturation. And as a plug real quick, before I talk about that oversaturation, anybody who hasn't listened to the interview last week with Ken Anderson needs to actually go back into our archives and listen to that, because Dave hit it out of the park there. It sounded a lot more like two friends sitting down and talking, and it's by far the best interview that I've heard on our program. That being said, oversaturation in football, absolutely. No other football league has ever worked, whether it's the AFL, whether it's Canadian Football League, whether it's the World Football League. No other football league has actually worked because there's only so much time that your wife's going to let you get away to watch football.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the great things about football is that you get basically, 17 weeks a year, and then they go into playoffs, and then you got to wait. And I think there's not enough of that wait anymore. And I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wish them the best of luck. I hope they can make it different and make it succeed. But the first thing I think of, like almost anything nowadays, is oversaturation.
I mean, the good news for me is I'm a Jets fan, so I get plenty of waiting time.
All right. Switching gears, another thing Joe wanted to talk about is the company Beyond Wrestling. Joe's more familiar with these guys. I've seen a few shows live. I know AJ wants to get out there. He's a busy guy. We've watched a little bit, but there's some good stuff on Beyond Wrestling. But they're going through a name change. They're going to be Beyond Championship Wrestling, and they're adding a heavyweight title. Now, the thing about this, AJ, which you might not know, is they've never had belts on the show. One of the big things about them is they just try to do a lot of dream independent matches, which separates them and makes them kind of different. They try to put on a real quality show with a lot of different things. Comedy, hardcore, great technical wrestling. So I guess the argument might be that, by putting a title on there, that maybe they're getting away from who they are. But to me, as a purist, one of the things, and I think we're going to agree on this, is I like there being a world champion in a promotion. You don't have to have a ton of titles, but having that one belt, the world championship, I think it's pretty special.
All right, so I'm torn on this. One thing is, I agree with you in the sense that every place does need a championship. Every organization needs a championship. However, the name itself, Beyond Championship Wrestling, doesn't that sound like they're saying that they're beyond needing championships?
Which kind of hints to almost like what they've been doing in the past.
That's what I'm saying. So they're kind of contradicting themselves in their name by putting it in that order. I'm not.
The side is, I could say you're putting a little too much thought into that, but I see where you're going.
No.
Agree, but I can see that.
But my reason for putting the thought into that is because I'm pro for the championship. I don't think they need the name change.
Yeah, fair enough. I would agree with that. Why change the name? I don't know. I'd have to look into it. Maybe this is where Joe would be able to add a little something here, but to me, off the top of my head, they have a real established identity as Beyond Wrestling. It's not a great, drastic change, so I don't think it's going to affect anything, but it just seems almost kind of unnecessary. I'm sure they have plans.
I mean, I can also see the thought as to why they're doing it. It's much easier to put merchandise out there, like a t-shirt or something with BCW or something like that, than it is to... So maybe maybe they want the chant BCW. There might be more to it.
We're going to segue off this, and Joe's last... I have a topic I want to bring up too, but Joe's last topic, which I feel like we've talked about a little bit before, but he wrote down this week is he watches AEW every week, and he hadn't really been watching NXT. But, due to personal stuff going on, Joe had the week off, and he decided to watch NXT. And he wrote down NXT better wrestling, AEW better sports entertainment. I think this is something else we've talked about in the past that we agree on. NXT, unfortunately, and this is something I want to say, maybe I heard Brian Alvarez talk about too. Unfortunately for them, the WWE has positioned them in a way that they've always seen as the feeder league still. And without the main roster talent, I feel like their ratings are going to be where they are right now. That being said, if you watch NXT and you put them side by side with AEW, they're a better pure wrestling show. And I know this because I'm talking to a guy who watches AEW first every week, and I want you to tell me if I'm wrong here. And it's not that he doesn't know that NXT is probably going to be a better show week after week. This guy is doing it out of pure support for something that's not Vince McMahon's. He still blames Vince McMahon for running the Crockett Promotions out of business.
Okay, first of all, there's more to it than that. He ran every...
But I'm not far off.
He ran every territory out of business.
W out of business, too.
But AEW right now, I do support first, and you know that I will always support anything non-Vince McMahon first.
Yes, you will.
But there's more to it than that. One of the reasons why I think it's more important to support AEW, which is not the better wrestling product, and you know I'm a wrestling purist. You know I prefer the wrestling.
And that's my point. If somebody who's going to support AEW first and openly does that and is telling you the other show has a better wrestling product, that should tell people who aren't giving NXT a chance, give it a chance, guys. You don't have to watch it first, but maybe, DVR and try to watch it.
Well, that's just it. To give fans an idea as to how much I like NXT and how great the wrestling is on NXT, if it didn't have the level that it has, I wouldn't tune in.
No, you're definitely making an effort that is hard for you at this point in your life, and you do that because you like what they're doing, especially with the women wrestling, and they by far have the best women wrestling on any show right now.
To give you an idea as to how much I support Wednesday Night Wrestling, my schedule typically on Wednesdays is to get home after 12 hours of work. I drive about an hour home, and then I watch AEW, and then I still stay up and watch NXT before going to sleep.
I think ultimately, too, I think we would both like to see the Wednesday night audience, whether it was AEW getting like a 2.5 rating and NXT getting a 1.5 rating, like in a perfect world, we'd like to see that joint audience on Wednesday and that audience overtake Monday and Friday.
Well, to show you how good NXT has been, what did you think this week of Raw?
I liked the closing angle with Edge and Orton. I thought that was phenomenal.
Yep, and everybody agrees with that.
Yeah.
But what did you think of the show?
I thought it was kind of just there. I mean, there wasn't anything that really stuck out. I didn't hate anything this week, but there was nothing really to like.
But you came off of, and I think we agreed on this last week, you came off of a very good Royal Rumble.
Right.
A Royal Rumble that did not disappoint.
Nope.
People enjoyed it. It was very exciting. So we come off of that Royal Rumble. We have an opportunity to build momentum.
And we got a very average show.
And we got average at best. And I don't think that we would even remember it as average if it wasn't for the closing angle.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair. Whereas Wednesday, NXT had the Dusty Classic Finals done in Riddle. I'll say this, honestly. Wednesday Night Wrestling this week from AEW NXT, I would not say it was one of the better shows that either company had. That being said, it was still better than anything else we watched all week.
Yeah.
Even though they're off weeks, they're still putting out really good shows.
Exactly. And still, the chemistry, I wanted to mention real quick, the chemistry with Dunn and Riddle, absolutely off the charts.
Yeah, they're phenomenal.
Riddle plays the absolute badass but silly guy so well off of Dunn's straight-laced, to the point guy.
Right, yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be eventual, turn there. I think there will be, but I also think that Dunn and Riddle might end up winning the tag belts on the next TakeOver, because I'm kind of wondering if that's the direction they're going with Undisputed Era.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that eventually they've got to go somewhere else with Undisputed Era, and I'm enjoying Wednesday nights. Wednesday nights,
I will say this, now we talked about it too, one other thing I really enjoyed was Ciampa basically telling Adam Cole that he was going to put him through the table and then sign a contract and did exactly what he said he was going to do, even down to putting an X right on the table.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I love the two of them working together. Like we talked about with Most Exciting Wrestlers last week on that 531, Adam Cole is on fire. Tommaso Ciampa also on fire. So the combination of the two of them, how could you go wrong?
And I'll give a little shout out to AEW before we got our next segment. A couple things that stuck out I really liked in the opening. Oh, help me out here. Who was SCU wrestling this week?
Oh, God. Angelico? I cannot remember his partner's name. Angelico? Jack Evans, yeah, sorry.
Okay. Wait, what was going on there? What was the beatdown angle? Were they beating down the Bucks? Who were the Bucks wrestling? Was that Ortiz? Who was that? What was going on there?
Well, the Bucks ended up wrestling. They actually won their match. They wrestled. Oh, God, now I'm going blank again. Jesus Christ.
Too much wrestling on.
That's the problem. But I
want to say the part I remember more than anything was Hangman Page coming down, handing one of the Bucks
his drink,
and then hitting that clothesline.
Oh, that was one of the highlights of the show. Hangman Page's character is developing so much. He's one of the highlights of the show every week.
Yeah,
he did.
So I apologize for me and AJ breaking out on this segment, but we watched a lot of wrestling this week, and a lot's been going on.
Oh, God, I can't even tell you how many hours of wrestling I watched this week.
And another thing I really enjoyed, too, this actually plays into our point about wrestling versus segments. We can tell you about big storylines in NXT and wrestling, but with AEW, it's more like entertainment aspect. I enjoyed the hold my beer while I do this. And the other thing I really enjoyed was Kip Sabian, who was wrestling Cody, but in a spot in the match, him and Penelope go to kiss each other, and Joey Janela comes out of the crowd and sticks.
And they each kiss a cheek. Yes.
He kisses a cheek, then he gives him the finger and walks out. It's just tremendous.
Now wait a minute. Not only was that great, but how about Iron Anderson getting thrown out of the match and actually making it look like it meant something?
That was good. He also did a little stomach bump thing, kind of a la like any college basketball or football coach.
But it actually meant more because of what Penelope Ford was actually doing ringside.
Absolutely.
They did a great job with that.
I don't want to overdo it. We want to trade one other little subject here. MLW this week announced a relationship with Dragon Gate Wrestling. Now, what's interesting to note about this, if you don't follow MLW, we talk about it. Joe's in the works of trying to put a MLW review show where we go back and look at historic episodes from the beginning to now. God, Joe's got some notes on this thing too. You should see it. It's 3 years worth of notes. This is his baby. Court Bauer needs to hire this kid. You
realize if Court Bauer hires him, we lose him, right?
Well, we'll try to stack it. We'll try to stack a job too if we can. Court Bauer, if you're out there. MLW's got this relationship with Dragon Gate. They already have a relationship with AAA. To me, man, this is just so smart. With AEW out there and WWE out there and so much competition, to reach out to have an international agreement with the top promotion in Mexico and the top promotion available you can work with in Japan. I would say Dragon Gate is second to New Japan, but New Japan isn't going to be doing business with MLW when they are trying to reach out to the States.
Okay, so we talk every week about NXT being the best wrestling on TV. And we do a little injustice when we say that every week, because MLW Fusion week after week puts out a great product. And
I would say too, if you didn't see it this week yet, MJF in one of his final performances, he might have another match left, but it's coming towards the end. He wrestles Marshall Von Erich. On his way to the ring, he spits his gum out at a fan who wants to shake his hand. He high faces another guy. He rips up somebody's side, and then he makes some girl kiss him on his cheek if she's going to do a selfie, and then doesn't do the selfie anyway and walks away.
Yeah, that's
just some of those old school heel shit that you shouldn't probably be able to get away with now, and he does it, and it works fantastic.
Oh, MJF's one of the best out there.
Oh, one more thing, because I think you'll appreciate this. MJF cuts a promo, too, before this match starts about the Von Erichs, and he said that Marshall and everything are just going to be a bust, and it doesn't matter because all the Von Erichs are known for tragedies, and after tonight, it's just going to be another Von Erich 6 feet under.
Yeah, MJF just says whatever he wants.
He does.
It's incredible. I'm sure he cleared that with the Von Erichs before saying that.
I hope so.
But there's a reason why he's as over as he is with the boys and with the fans. And it's because he does smart business every time. He doesn't just say throwaway things. For Christ's sakes, Diamond Dallas Page came out a few weeks ago and was going to wrestle him. And he's talking about Diamond Dallas Page's daughter, for Christ's sakes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I cut you off a little bit, but like we were talking about Killer Cross you were going to mention. Killer Cross, to me, if people haven't seen this guy yet, he's somebody you need to check out. He's got an amazing look. His stuff looks great in the ring. And you look at him and you think, oh, this guy's going to be a big powerhouse. But his promos are almost like the better part of his act.
No, he's phenomenal. We've seen him everywhere from Bloodsport to all kinds of events, and he just brings it every time.
All right, is there anything else you want to talk about this week?
No, I think we covered everything. I think it's going to be another barn burner of a show, folks. Hey, guys, if you're out there and you're tuning into podcasts and you love wrestling the way that we do, you're not going to find a podcast where they're more passionate about wrestling than the Working Fans Podcast. Every week we bring to you the best interviews in wrestling. My man Dave deep dives into it with legends such as Nikita Koloff, Ricky Morton, Ken Anderson. He's just bringing it time and time again. Al Snow. We bring to you legitimate points of view like Bob Cook, people who you just don't know what they're going to say. And we get stuff out of those interviews that you don't get from other places. So please tune in every week and listen because you don't know what you're going to get from the Working Fans Podcast.
Which reminds me, no interview this week, but they're coming, folks. So thanks for the plug anyway, AJ.
That's perfect timing.
Perfect time. But no, we have a laundry list of interviews out there. A lot of other guys, too, that are coming up, like Richard Holiday and John Silver, who's part of the Dark Order with AEW now. We interviewed him a while back, too. So we definitely are getting quite the list of interviews on our resume. So if you haven't checked this out.
I think one of the things that people need to know, and it's something that obviously we let Joe talk about, but unfortunately, here in our family, we are a family on the Working Fans Podcast, we had a loss last week, and Joe, our producer's father, ended up passing away last week. So we focused a little bit more on family stuff this week and focused more on the things that truly matter when it comes to life in general. And while we do have a deep love of wrestling and it is something we're passionate about, Joe and his family are in our prayers right now. And please, all the listeners out there, make sure that you do the same for us because it's very important that we let Joe know how much we care.
Yep, and some did actually send out some support this week. Jay, Zach, Randy, and a few others that I might be forgetting. So thank you guys, and I think that's it for this week. We're the Working Fans Podcast, and we're out.
Later.
All right.
Welcome to the 531, where we take our top 5 list on a particular subject, debate it down to a top 3, and then debate it down to a top 1. We got a list from Randy this week, and I gotta say, I hate the shit out of this topic. We're talking about theoretical matchups. We're talking about your dream matchups. It's a good conversation starter, but when you're doing something like the 5-3-1 where you're comparing and you're taking similar things to move on, it's absolute bullshit. Fit into this format, but we want to thank Randy for sending it in, and we assembled our lists anyways.
Easy there, brother. I want to talk about this for a second. First off, thank you, Randy. Sorry, Joe, went a little hard on the paint on your ass, but it is hard to assemble all this stuff, as we said.
We're comparing apples and oranges, literally.
Yeah, because, I mean, any of these fucking combinations could work with multiple combinations. There's so many people out there that if you're a true hardcore fan of this, you're going to make this list and go, oh yeah, I forgot about this motherfucker.
Yeah, even lists that we got multiple honorable mentions. And like I said, it's a very good discussion starter. We've got the most response from fans ever. Let's get into our list first.
Let's get into it, baby.
Let's start with Scott from Valentine.
I love that kid.
first time list, he's got Naito versus Mr. Perfect, Zack Sabre Jr. versus Daniel Bryan, Brock Lesnar versus Minoru Suzuki, Tomohiro Ishii versus Samoa Joe, and Kobashi versus Walter in a battle of the chops. That's a major list right there. Naito versus Perfect.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah, he's got a good list here. God damn. I mean, I'm not as familiar with Kobashi other than those brutal chops. And, like, just the idea of him and Walter just beating the shit out of each other. Ugh.
Yeah, that would be a solid match. Now, we got a list from Matt Jordan from Parts Unknown. Matt, let us know where you're at on Twitter.
Yeah.
His list is Charlotte Flair versus Chyna, Kurt Angle versus Matt Riddle, Brock Lesnar versus Vader, Goldust versus Velveteen Dream, and the Brainbusters versus the Revival.
It's interesting.
Solid list. I mean, Brainbusters versus Revival, that is one of the few matches I'm not surprised it popped up on multiple lists, but I didn't expect for anybody to have any similar matches, and that's one.
Spoiler here, Lesnar doesn't make my list, but he's one of these guys. I've seen him on a couple of these lists here already. He's a guy, to me, I just listened to John Cena have an interview, and he had a comment where Lesnar's performance at the Rumble, to him, he showed like what a great worker he is and what an underrated worker he is, and how he put over his legitimacy. He put over the people in the ring with him, even only for a few seconds. He said the way he makes everything so real that he thinks Brock is one of the best workers of all time. And people don't say that, but like if you think about it, like the stuff this guy can do, like I'll give you an example. In my mind, Ultimate Warrior as a kid, one of my favorites. The music, everything, the theme of his energy. But I didn't put him on any dream matches because I know Warrior can't really work, and as I got older, it just doesn't hold up.
You saw all the combinations you needed to with him.
But if you put Brock versus the Warrior, Brock would make that work, I think. I think he would make that short. He would give Warrior what he needed to go do, and it could make it work. I'm not saying it would, but I think he could. Now, however, if you take Goldberg, who I also like Goldberg, and put him in that same match with Ultimate Warrior, it's not going to fucking work at all. I'd be shocked if it did. And that's the difference with Brock Lesnar, where he doesn't get the credit sometimes of these other guys. Brock is a big, strong animal, but the motherfucker can work. I'm going on a rant. Sorry, go ahead.
And him versus Vader, that would be a hard-hitting match.
In their prime, they would have beat the shit out of each other.
Goldust versus Velveteen Dream, another solid matchup. Yeah. We're going to move on to Sheaf's list. He's got Shawn Michaels versus Eddie Guerrero, Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar versus Vader, Funk versus Moxley. I strongly considered putting that on my list.
That's a good one.
And Revival versus Brainbusters.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Another solid list. You get kind of the view of maybe what somebody... He's 10 years younger than us, but his list stays almost within, I'd say, everybody's sensibilities.
Yeah, the true greats don't age sometimes. So the work holds up. Terry Funk is a guy that hasn't worked in years, really. And, I mean, obviously he's done his, indie stuff here and there. And obviously he wrestled late into his career. But, like, if you think about when Funk was last relevant, but yet that work still holds fucking up. So,
yeah, and they would put on a brutal match.
Yeah, good stuff is good stuff.
Zach gave us a list this week. He has Shawn Michaels versus Kenny Omega, Bret Hart versus Kurt Angle, Michael Cole versus Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart versus Okada, and Will Ospreay versus Rollins.
I'm going to stop you right there, brother. Respect you. Glad you're back. But I don't think that's Michael Cole. I think that's Adam Cole.
Oh, did I say Michael Cole?
You did?
Oh, that's Cole. Cole versus Michaels, and I fucked it up.
That's all right.
Michael Cole. So,
oh my!
Holy shit! That's a solid list. Jake also sent us a list
Zach. Anyway.
with Shawn Michaels versus AJ Styles, Shawn Michaels versus Adam Cole, Taz versus Minoru Suzuki, Daniel Bryan versus Pete Dunne, and he's got the Young Bucks and the Rockers on his list.
Yes, he does.
He also sent us a separate tag team list, which I want to get into because that's going to kind of morph into my list, where I actually started my list off with a tag team. But we got the Hart Foundation versus the Revival.
Good shit.
The Bucks versus the Rockers. Red Dragon versus the Brainbusters. Red Dragon being Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish.
Yep.
Brainbusters versus the Revival. And Hollywood Blondes versus the Briscoes from ROH.
I also think he wanted him and his brother to wrestle the Briscoes on a bonus match that he thought would be good stuff.
All right, so we're just... that's automatically going to get seeded into one of the top spots, right?
Jake, we let you get yourself over a little bit, bro. I mentioned it, but that's not going any further.
All right, so my list... I started out with American Alpha versus the Steiner brothers, Teddy Hart versus Owen Hart. At first, I had Benoit versus the Dynamite Kid, but when I heard Suzuki on Jake's list, I put Benoit versus Suzuki, Tessa Blanchard versus Shayna Baszler. And I had Matt Riddle versus Brock because that's one of those dream matches that's out there enough where it's a possibility, but they say it's not going to happen.
Jesse from New Hampshire, his list of top 5 dream matches, which were The Rock versus HBK, Austin versus Hogan. He had a couple interesting ones here. Eddie Guerrero versus Penta.
Wow.
This one, I think you're going to love. You had almost something similar. He had Moxley. You'll explain your list in a minute. I don't want to spoil it. He had Moxley versus Eddie Gilbert.
Oh, I like that one.
I thought you would. And then this one, I think, I don't know necessarily that, like, you're going to pop for it, but boy, I could really see it once he said it. Bruno Sammartino versus Walter.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that one.
Yeah, it just makes sense. The way he said it, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm clamoring for that, but I get that match, and I wouldn't mind seeing that. And what about, I mean, a couple of Bears, Bruno back in his prime, and then Walter. It would have been something to watch.
Oh, no, it would have been fascinating. Yeah, Bruno in his prime was built very similar to Walter also. So.
Yeah, agreed. Now, what do you have for a list?
I start off with Terry Funk versus Bray Wyatt,
Would have been good.
which I realized still could happen.
I don't know about that, but yeah.
Andre versus Brock.
Yeah, Randy had that one, I remember.
Yeah, I just think it would have been interesting to see, and I'm not talking about Andre, obviously late WWE where he could barely move and was hanging on the ropes. I mean a young Andre who could actually move and bump his ass off.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. And Brock, who could probably lift him in ways that Andre wouldn't have been used to.
That's what I'm saying. Midnight Express versus the Revival.
Yeah, I wonder. Yeah, Revival made the list a few times, actually.
I saw Revival versus Iron and Tully on other people's lists.
Yeah, Revival versus Hart Foundation, Revival versus Rocks, Rockers, Revival versus Bucks, I think.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting matchups for the Revival. The Revival versus Bucks could still very much happen.
They could, yes.
And then we saw this match, but I would have liked to have seen this match with Flair in his prime. Flair versus Angle. I think Ric Flair versus Angle in Flair's prime would have been a much different match, and I think would have been absolutely incredible for 60 minutes.
You know what's funny? For all of Ric Flair's greatness, he didn't make my top 5 dream matches, and I said one of the reasons why is because I had seen so many Flair dream matches already.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of it is Flair later in his career in the dream matches.
True. And the thing is, like what Joe talked about, like the hard thing with dream matches as a subject is there's so many combinations of people, and you can do it, and then you're going to be like, oh, I forgot to add that guy.
Well, then, in my last one is one that might have already happened in WCW, and I'm sure some internet genius out there is going to go, well, I'm sure this one happened in the fall of '97.
I like the sincerity of internet genius. Go ahead, please.
Yes, to me, the late 90s was not the prime of Mr. Perfect. Don't get me wrong, he was having decent matches, but I would have liked to have seen the Mr. Perfect from like 1988-89 versus Eddie Guerrero.
Yeah, I don't know if that match took place, but that would have been a good one. I had Eddie Guerrero versus Ricky Steamboat.
That's a good one too. I just think that with the way that Mr. Perfect had character and the way Eddie's character was, that they would have played well off of each other, especially heel versus heel, as compared to Steamboat, who had the personality of a soap dispenser.
Steamboat had a little more to that, but I know what you're saying. A little too hard to paint on Ricky, all right?
No. Ricky's one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, but he was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time.
Yeah, but I mean, he could cut a promo. He just wasn't like one of... You're talking about, unfortunately, he was in a promo era where you had everybody cut a good promo, too, though.
Yeah, he's also more of the Benoit promo. He was more of the intense fire and brimstone promo than he was the personality promo.
One of the ones I had was Mr. Perfect versus Kurt Angle.
Yeah, I like that one. And that's another one, once again, where it could have happened, but I would have loved to have seen Perfect in his prime versus Kurt Angle.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else you want to add on these dream matches?
No, I think that everybody's dream matches are really good. And the fact of the matter is, it's matches that we wish that we could have seen or could have seen earlier in someone's career. And it brings us back to what brings us a fan. And while this was one of the hard ones for us to do, great topic by Randy Osgood, because quite frankly, it's something that we're all passionate about.
That's so funny. Joe hated having to do this, but he hated having to, put it together, so I get it.
Yeah.
Dave, if you want to give us your list, and then we'll end with Randy's list since this is his topic.
Make sure we didn't forget him. All right. Here's my list. And, I could go on, and I had, I think 11 of these, and that was just kind of spitballing. This is a real tough thing for me. So there's a lot of people I'm forgetting. I had Benoit on my list at one point versus Daniel Bryan, and he's not on the list anymore just because I had changed my mind.
Are you saying something off the record about his legacy should top anything else he's done? I thought that you might have said something about that.
No, I think that might be one of our...
Whoa. We won't worry about who said it, but just know that it was edited out of a conversation at some point.
Yeah.
AJ, we're looking at you.
We won't say who said it. But
all right, Dave, what's your list now that we just spent time
I want to write one shout out to one dream match, because a lot of my list, I really had certain technical wrestlers and main event guys. These guys might not...
Billy Robinson?
Yeah, Billy Robinson on my list. Slick Willie, as I used to call him. This guy's made my list. Didn't make my list, but I thought it'd be an interesting matchup that I'd never heard of or seen. So just a shout out, I would have liked to seen Jushin Thunder Liger versus Dynamite Kid. I mean, I just think that those styles would have made an epic match. At the end of the day, here's my top 5, all right? And it ain't Slick Willie Robinson, I'm sorry.
I feel like that match has happened at some point.
Maybe it has, but I'm looking at the timeline.
That's the tough part with some of these dream matches is we don't fucking know when they happen. I don't got all the time in the world. I'm doing MLW notes. You'll hear the episode.
This motherfucker's working on this for 3 years. It's a goddamn dream. Court Bauer needs to give him a job. Court. All right. This list is a pain in the ass. I'm sorry, Randy. Joe has already told me off the air. Other than his father passing away this week, this is the hardest fucking thing he had to go through. And it's because of you. We might have to edit that out, too.
Let's take it. Can we just get you?
Okay. All right. Here's my list.
That is 100% stated.
Bret Hart versus Daniel Bryan. Two of my favorites. Bret's my favorite wrestler of all time. Daniel Bryan's actually my favorite wrestler today. One thing I haven't heard on this list yet is, I think I missed it, and I spaced out because I'm an idiot. CM Punk versus HBK. I think their styles would make an excellent matchup.
Michaels has come up several times, but Punk not once.
No, and I think he's definitely underrated. Eddie Guerrero and Ricky Steamboat. We haven't had Steamboat, I think, on this list yet either. How do we not? Eddie Guerrero versus Ricky Steamboat, that would have been an absolute classic.
You know why? Because there's such a list of top-level wrestlers.
Oh, yeah.
And then you want to think of the people, you come up with dream matches. Have they wrestled them? Was I not aware of it?
And that's the thing. Ric Flair is one of the greatest wrestlers of all times. He has so many dream matches already. So he didn't make my list because I can't think of many matches that Flair hasn't
exactly,
had.
yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I could, but it just, Owen Hart versus AJ Styles. I just think Owen would have ended up being one of the all-time best, and he was one of the all-time best.
And we had a similar thought with you having him versus AJ and me having him versus Teddy. I think if you put Owen against that kind of high flyer and that kind of showman, it would have brought it out of him, and it just would have been a top-level match.
Absolutely. There's a lot of people, Tully got included with Iron in tag matches, but Tully Blanchard versus Eddie Guerrero, I mean, I didn't include that. I'm just saying, there's guys that were top level guys that aren't going to make our list because there's just too much here. There's too much. And so last match I put on my list was Kurt Angle versus Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. Best of my knowledge, they never met, and I think that would have been an awesome match in both their primes.
Very much so.
Oh, and one shout out. We didn't get a top 5, but Kristen from Griswold also, he didn't make the list. He didn't get a time, but he did say one match he would have liked to see was John Cena versus Okada. Not many people are going to put John Cena on this list, but if you think about it, John's had a lot of top matches too. A matchup with him versus Okada. I'm not saying it would make any of my lists, but it would definitely be up there.
To me, that feels almost like it would be the Hogan Flair of this generation, to some degree.
Yeah, I agree.
Now we've gone through all our top 5 lists. There have been a couple names that have popped up multiple times. Lesnar versus Vader, Shawn Michaels versus Adam Cole, and Hart versus Angle popped up a couple times. Michaels versus Styles, also on a couple lists.
The Brain Busters versus the Revival.
That popped up on a couple lists.
Yeah.
So
it's hard, man.
Because usually what we do at this point is we'll take what's made the most amount of lists and move on.
We're lucky we got this many people agreed on.
Yeah, I picked 2 that we had that have matched up. There have been a couple that we're not including. Dave, looking at this list, who would you give that third spot to? I'm open to pretty much anything. Like I said, this is a hard list to kind of steer this segment.
So we got
around.
Lesnar, Vader, and who was the other one?
Shawn Michaels versus Adam Cole, which to me, I almost would put that as the dream match because now that Cole is learning from Michaels, he's picking up a lot of that.
Yeah, with Vader and Lesnar, you get something different. If we were throwing a card together, we're not, though. But if we were throwing a card together with this match, I'd say throw Lesnar Vader in there because it's a little different than what we have already over here.
Yeah, because you got two athletic...
But that's not what we're doing.
No.
So we're just talking about dream matches, so Michaels and Cole is the clear winner to me. No offense against that other match. I would love to see it.
All right, so Michaels and Cole... So we'll give the list for if you were making a 3-match dream card. We would have done Michaels versus Styles, Brainbusters versus Revival, and then a little something for everybody, Lesnar versus Vader. But for the sake of our interview, we're going to do Shawn Michaels versus Adam Cole.
Yeah.
Who's the first to go from this?
It's a tag match for me.
Really?
Yeah, here's why. First of all, it's one of the best tag matches you could possibly have.
Yeah.
It's super exciting, and I probably currently like all those guys just as much as anybody. But at the end of the day, if we're going to do pinnacle dream matches, I would lean more towards a single match. I mean, I love tag wrestling. I don't think it gets the respect it deserves, especially from WWE. But at the end of the day, there is a difference in, like, what's the one thing you really want to see? You know, and I had to make a list. I'm not going to say it's the Rockers and the Bucks, even though that'd be fucking amazing. I'm going to tell you it's maybe Shawn Michaels and AJ Styles because that's the big fucking time feel.
So you think Michaels and Styles is on an equal level with Michaels and Cole?
Yes.
And they both deserve to go past the tag match?
They do. I know it's, we're getting redundant, but that's just my opinion. You know?
I would actually take Michaels and Styles off the list if it were up to me.
Sure.
Just because you've got Michaels and Cole. To me, that's like the 1A match. I would look at Michaels and Styles as 1B.
And that's fine. And if you want to be different, then no matter what, HBK is getting on his fucking...
Yeah.
So I guess let's argue this then. So you're saying, though, Michaels versus Styles...
I don't think that's as much of a matchup as Brainbusters versus Revival because...
But you don't think...
Cole versus Shawn Michaels, that's teacher-student.
The story.
And you've got the same idea with the Brainbusters that they've studied tag team wrestling, but they've patterned themselves after Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. So it's more of that tightly pulled in story.
And also, if we're going to do this like Michaels and Cole, one of the reasons why they're better than Michaels and Styles, in my opinion, I feel like Cole is just a much better heel. And that's where that match would probably end up going.
And there's a more direct influence. Like, I don't see the Michaels as much with Styles.
No.
And that's the only reason I would argue for the tag match over that, just because Michaels and Cole, that's solid. Guys, you can see why Naito would have gone to the top of the 5-3-1 the other week.
Well, let's just say this, too. And this is the problem,
Make one last push for Styles and Michaels, and if you can get me with it, then...
Well, hold on. I want to say this is also the problem with this list, too. Sorry, Randy. It's recency
because it's
bias,
apple and oranges? Yeah,
it's also reasonable. What has AJ done recently? AJ is one of the best wrestlers, but if he just came off a fucking hour... He got injured, but if he came off an hour-long impressive Royal Rumble performance and he killed it, we'd probably be like, oh, goddamn. Like, how do we not have Michaels and Styles?
Yeah.
So, but right now, Adam Cole's the hot ticket in our life, and Ian Anderson's in TV a little more. Revival's making some news. So, I don't know. So, I'm not going to make that push. I'm going to kick him right off.
I was going to say, you won me over. I'll take the tag match off.
Me and Joe are arguing to put the other one over right here.
But it does make sense because Styles hasn't been as hot lately. Cole has been. Mm-hmm. And that's why we're going to end the 5-3-1 right now and just pick Michaels versus Cole. Because even though that argument won me over, you're comparing... And this is probably the best this has worked out for comparing apples to fucking apples.
You damn near killed him, Randy.
Shawn Michaels versus AJ Styles and Shawn Michaels versus Adam Cole.
You broke Joe, Randy. What the fuck?
Shawn Michaels versus Adam Cole is going to win it because...
I hope you got some editing skills.
Oh, yeah. A lot of this shit's coming out. So, guys, Michaels versus Cole won for the dream match. Get at us on Twitter. Get at us on YouTube. Find us in the comments. Subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah.
We're up to 14. We're
putting out a lot more material right now.
Oh, yeah. We're almost daily videos now. So, guys, find us where we're at, and we will see you next week. Thank you.
All right. Love you guys.
All right, so that wraps us up for this week. Thank you again for listening to the Working Fans Podcast. So as always, you can find us on Twitter at FansWorking. Our Facebook page is Working Fans Wrestling Pod. We have email where you can reach out to us and let us know what you think also. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, workingfanswrestling_pod. And then as always, please continue to listen to us on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, all your major platforms. If you're following us on Apple Podcasts, which we are also on now, and YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us bring you these podcasts where we get to talk to you and talk with you every week.